We have all gathered here for an awareness and triumph over something which has sadly become a part and parcel of our lives. Something which is normalized and has rigged through all the pillars of society. A social evil, that is corruption. As part of the fight against corruption, Central Vigilance Commission has observed an awareness week from 30th October to 5th November with the theme Say No to Corruption, and several activities were conducted by the university. At the outset, I welcome all of you to the awareness program. Now, I, on behalf of all of us, request the dignitaries to please light the lamp and kill the darkness of corruption. Now I request our today's Chief Guest, Honorable Justice Subhash B. Adi sir, former High Court Judge, Government of Karnataka, also former Upa-Lokayukta, and currently serving as Chairman, Green Tribunal, Government of Karnataka, to address the gathering.
Respected Vice Chancellor, the Registrar of the Central University, the dignitaries on the dais and off the dais, my dear students, ladies and gentlemen. Indeed, every year, the Vigilance Week is observed, not as a celebration, to remind how this corruption grassrooted in our country and how it has affected day-to-day life of every citizen. You might have read in the most of the articles and the news items also that a survey, a study on the countries which are corrupt, they numbered 184 in the world. And amongst 184, India was one of them at serial number 84. The study was also conducted, most corrupted countries, 100 most corrupted countries. And amongst them, India was the 40th. Now, this corruption is not just affecting two persons, who pays and who takes. Or corruption is not just paying money and getting some work done. Corruption is at many levels. It affects the human rights, it affects the development, it affects the quality, it affects the national interest, it affects everything. For what is estimated and reported as to the under the ground value of this money which is not taxable, which is not taxed, which is not in the public, is 50% of the GDP of the country. Now, there are various stages of level of corruptions, and every stage and every category and every department. You name anything. It may be education, it may be religious, it may be, for example, couple of days Prime Minister himself made corruption, Mahadeva corruption. Now the God name is also not left for the corruption. Now you must be reading in the paper that day to day there is an issue that to ask a question in the parliament there was some money paid. Now highest supreme body of the law making, supreme body of our country, parliament is the people's representative institution, where the aspiration of the people are being debated And for that, if the representative is induced for corruption, what the best you can expect? And this is how every year it is increasing and the level of corruption is going very high. Now, I was just reading some of the articles where some studies are made. One of the study that the funding is done for the political parties. Now, India has got about 8 national parties, several regional parties, and there are parties, registered unrecognized political parties. They are called URPP. Now, they are 3,000 in number. And the level of collection of money which is not identifiable. And this issue is also there in the Supreme Court, not to debate more on that. So, where from money comes and where this money goes. Now, the bureaucracy. Now, if you know, 60% of our population, one or the other way, has experienced the corruption. One or the other way, you must have gone to the office or you must have gone to some place for certain favor, certain the compliance of certain applications, and you will experience that you need to pay. Whether it is in the name of gift, whether it is in the kinds, whether it is in otherwise. One such article I interestingly noticed. November 2016, when 2000 currency was banned. Before that, the gold purchase was increased 30 to 40%. The reason was the black money was to be circulated. The black money was to be made into kinds because there was the restriction of encashing. So the other way, the jeweler shops were flooded with the customers and the rates jumped from 31,000 to 45,000 because of the demand of gold. Now this is all you call it as a black money or you call it as the underground money, but this is a huge quantity. This is not for the development. This is money which has to come in the form of a tax which has not come, but it is accumulated at certain places. Now, various laws are there, various agencies are there in our countries. Now, the laws and agencies at the state level, at the national level, and these are there since long. I mean, my recollection goes that even in the Bible there is a reference to this. See, getting something to do some work is condemned in Bible. In Quran it is called as haram. Chanakya teaching, it is said that the object of corruption is killing the administration. Now it is recognized in the history also. The law developed by a criminal by means of penal code. Then in 1930s and there was a Prevention of Corruption Act which was amended in 1947 and later on it is amended by 1988. The prevention of corruption is not only the legislation which deals with the curbing of the corruption. There is a Prohibition of Money Laundering Act, there is a Benami Prohibition Act, there are various enactments to check the administration because major 45% of this corruption at the bureaucracy level. Now the bureaucracy level means it is connected with the political also. So the 45% of this corruption is coming from this bureaucracy. Now I was a Lokayukta, Upalokayukta. Now we have a Lokapal at the center, Vigilance Commission is the center. We have a Lokayukta in the state of Karnataka. Elsewhere also there are Lokayukta or anti-corruption, the police is there. Lot of agencies there. But how effectively we are dealing with it? Why we should observe a week, Vigilance Week? What was the object of observing just a week? Now, vigilance week is observed in country to ensure that the corrupt mind, that person, not only the person is corrupt, but the person to become corrupt, there must be another person. It is not possible that a single man become automatically corrupt unless there is another person colliding with him. Now, this observation is, see, the week's observation is to ensure, educate the people how to eradicate this corruption. Now, Supreme Court, right from 1971, in many of its judgment, repeatedly it has observed and it has also cautioned that the corruption is like a cancer and it is literally eating the country. Now, what is happening? For example, you take any department. If the roads are substandard, now the quality of road is failed not because there is money not spent, but the quality is failed because there is an involvement of corruption. Now, under the definition of corruption, it is not just giving a bribe. Bribe is one of the item of a corruption. Now, how this corruption starts? You wanted to construct a house and you have everything planned, everything is according to law. Now you go before the authority and may present an application. Now authority will keep that application and you also wait for some time and then go there. Why? What happened to my application? He says it will take time. But your money is involved, your time is involved. What do you do? What will you do? So you will please him. You will please him with certain favor. Now that is certain favor which induce him to perpetuate it to continue that mode. So you will give some benefit to him. Immediately he said he will do it. Now if the application which you make, the plan which you make is a defective plan, and the defective plan, in case of defective plan, you will not get the approval. Then second category of corruption, you will go before the authority. Authority says your plan is defective and it cannot be sanctioned. Now that is another way. Then you want to get an approval for that. Then you will induce him. You will take some more money and give me approval. This is the second category. Now there is the third category. I am just giving a casual example. Third category is your application is correct and the plan is also correct. But he will withhold it. Until you agree for his demand, he will withhold it. Now what happens? You will wait for some time and go there. Then he will make a query that your application is defective. He will point out the defect which is already cured, but he will just reject the application. Now to overcome this, there is also policy in the state government and central government. Sakal system. Within certain days you need to dispose of the application. As a Upalokayukta, I found how these applications are disposed of. Because within the 15 days, if the person is getting his relief, I said very well, it is very good. When they describe that how a modus operandi operates, the application is filed and the person waits for 15 days and thereafter it comes in the computer on the online that your application is deferred for want of certificate from such an authority. Though it may not be required, may be required, but it is already there. He will just make query it and reject it, and in the list of disposal it is shown as deferred, dismissed or granted. So even if you have a genuine case, even if you have a genuine right, you will not get the right unless you agree for bribe. This is what is happening. Now, for this there are laws. Now there are laws which you can complain it to the Vigilance Commissioner, you can complain it to the Anti-Corruption Bureau, or you can complain it to the Lokayukta. Now this is all going on in our country. That is why we are still ranking in most corrupt countries. Now day in, day out, every newspaper, one or the other item, there is a reference to corruption. Now why it is happening? Why it is happening? With all education and other things. Now, this is where the observation of the Vigilance Week is not for just a week to listen what is the level of corruption and why the corruption is happening. But it is a time that we must get, it is like a constitution, what we need to learn, constitution, what is mandatory for us. While we need to, from the childhood, we need to understand what is corruption. Now the corruption in India is increasing not because of anything, because of there are people who make the person corrupt, and there are people who will induce the people to the corruption. Now this is the area. Now I had certain figures. The GDP level, particularly this collection of political fund, is equal to 1%, unorganized sector, 1% of GDP by the unrecognized political party, who have no at all, nothing in the society. Still, they register as a political party, but not recognized by the election commission. Now, election process, if you have seen, all of you are second and you are all are the educated voters. Now, the corruption level, if you look at even the election process takes only a month or 2 months. But before election, how much money is spent? There is no control. In fact, I spoke on that. I spoke on that the election commission cannot restrict itself to the code of conduct. It must extend its jurisdiction even before the election and post the election, how the political parties act. Now, what is they are doing, everybody knows it. It is in the common knowledge. It is in the common knowledge that favors are showered like anything. Now, where from they get the money? Can you give everyone, all the voters, certain articles, certain benefits, certain gifts? This is not only in the higher level of politics. Take it that you are also students, you are going to be great citizens of your country. Even at the students level it is happening. It is students level is happening, even at the professional level it is happening, everywhere it is happening. For example, don't you go give a party before election? Don't you go for the favors? So the inducing, the mindset should not get diverted to the corruption. Mindset should be anti-corruption means you must resist the corruption not only for yourself, but make the society to resist the corruption. Development is not possible. Human rights is violated patently because of the corruption. The development is affected because of the corruption. The quality of the development is affected because of the corruption. Now I may go one step further. The quality of education is seriously affected because of the corruption. Now there is a proper education. For example, with respect to the Vice Chancellor, education level also. I was also holding some office connected with the professional courses. Now there are numerous kinds of universities have come. Now the fee structures are prescribed. But what is exactly taken? Is it the fee structure which is prescribed or there is any other amount? Now the huge amount is collected for professional admissions. Now where is the quality education you are expecting? So even if the corruption enters the education, then what is expected of the delivery? So what is necessary is the universities or the institutions or any education institutions must have curriculum, must have resistance to the corruption, whether it is in their kind or whether it is in other favor. Now, there are instances, not by giving money, not by bribing, not by anything, but by means of favoritism. The corruption includes favoritism. Corruption into nepotism also. So the corruption is not only by means of money. Money Laundering Act is assuming very important present days. Day in, day out, you have seen the Enforcement Directorate has been conducting raids. Has been conducting raids, and every raid there is a money. It is not a case that they fail to get anything. Every such raid means 1% of information also genuinely gets such a wonderful result. Now, the money laundering is not confined to the India, but money laundering, unaccounted money laundering is outside the country also. Now the money laundering happens not only in country, but outside the country. You must have heard at the Swiss bank and other. There is huge quantity of money is deposited in the Swiss bank. Though they have declared on inquiry, on information, they have also declared those figures are also there. Now where from this money comes? Why this money goes to some country? Now this is one way, and there is different way of investment. Now the Benami transaction, there are Benami transactions. Huge chunk of lands, huge chunk of properties are made by in the name of different persons to avoid direct involvement into the corruption activities. So this Benami transaction has also identified huge quantity of diversion of the money which is meant for development of the country, development of the state. So the diversion of this money also is causing serious threat to the development and Indian interest of the country. Nearly $1.4 trillion is stated to have been deposited in one of the bank. That is from the Indian source. So the observation as to the Vigilance Week, to eradicate the corruption. Now, why it is not effectively happening in our country? What is the reason that it is not happening? Now, we have a system that if there is any corruption, the complaint will go, or if the authorities on so moto they investigate or collect the information. Now, there are systems we go by means of investigation, then the judicial process, and then the punishment. The process which the time consumption is, the investigation does not happen within reasonable time. Then once the investigation happens, the time taken for the trial, it again gets a gap. Now in between what happens is either the witnesses or the evidence is either extinguished or not available, or something happens. The judicial level, the conviction level also comes down. Now this is again inducing those persons, even if they are caught, even if they are held on the charge of the corruption, it's the momentary. They feel it is momentary. Today the trend is it is a momentary, thereafter we can get the decision. So it is only a question of few days or few months. Now this this requires a complete change, complete what I call it as a complete research is necessary to how to overcome all these things. Now, efficiency is one of the important aspects without which it is not possible. Efficiency, if the efficiency fails, there is a possibility of the corruption. The areas of corruption, what we normally come across, for example, social welfare. The schemes of social welfare meant for development, social welfare means meant for development of socially weaker section. Any department you name it health, you name it the infrastructure development department, it is the most corrupt. You name it the watchdog, like the watchdog means police, it may be revenue, it may be anything. You name anything, if you ask even ordinary citizen that if you want to go to an office and get any work done, he will immediately say, go and pay some money, he will get you. But this is where our minds are getting corrupt. We ourselves are feeling that the corruption is our way of life. And every day we think that corrupt, without that we cannot live. And that is the stage we are reaching. So, my dear students, my request is awareness program or the observing of the Vigilance Week is not for a week or is not for a one day's program, but it is a program for changing the mindset, behavioral changing, bringing the behavioral changes in the mindset of the people to resist the corruption, stand against the corruption and say that I am entitled. For that, every institution needs to have that. For example, if it is a judiciary must take this seriously. Police, it must take seriously. So the institution should not become corrupt. If that institution also becomes corrupt, then it is impossible. So I am not saying that there is no corruption in any other departments also. There is a corruption. So we need to start a day on which we think that it is necessary and say that no to the corruption and say that right is right and wrong is wrong. And don't ask for the wrong thing to be right and make it. So there you come as a compromising stage. So in this, I only expect the students or the institutions like this, which are founded on the basic principles of quality and hard work and other things. You need to develop yourself, your personality as an upright citizen, and we need to overcome this corruption. And I am sure that students like you and institutions like this will stand against the corruption and ensure that every student will fight against the corruption and make this country as one of the non-corrupt country, and it will be out of the list of corrupt country. Thank you very much for this.
Thank you for the words of enlightenment on our responsibility, sir. Thank you so much. Now we move on to the last leg of the program. Before that, I would like to thank the dignitaries, our chief guest, Justice Subhash Adi sir, for addressing the gathering and for making time to visit our Central University of Karnataka. Meanwhile, also extend gratitudes to the other dignitaries, our Honorable Vice Chancellor, Professor Battuta Satyanarayana sir, our respected Registrar, Professor R.R. Biradar sir, Program Coordinator and also Chief Vigilance Officer, Professor Basaraj Kodvanti sir, also our senior faculty members, deans, heads, students and all the research scholars and also non-teaching staff for helping us with this program. I now request